It's highly unlikely that it's going to be long-term inflation that's going to get...
I've got a hot update for you on the general markets, gold, silver, precious metal, mining stocks, plus we're going to take a look at a couple current factors, current news items that I think could play an important role in supporting the price for precious metals as we move through the rest of the year. I've got all that for you and a lot more in this video. Thank you for deciding to join me here in the basement. As you already know, things are challenged in the markets. The S&P 500 is sitting right around 3,760, not 4,760, where it was just a few short months ago. So the general markets, including the S&P 500, are down 20% or more. Now, the price of gold is hovering right around 1820, although when I looked right before filming, it had actually come back a bit, which is good, to about 1830 range. So it's holding strong in that 1800 range. I think it's very important that we hold 1800, 1780. We'll see how that plays out in the coming months. Silver, man, what's going on with silver? $21 per ounce. It's been a painful 6 weeks or so for silver investors, including myself. The mining stocks, we'll just look at the GDX, the major index ETF for gold mining stocks. That's a good proxy for the whole sector. It's right around 30. It's close to 52-week lows. The sentiment is not good in the mining sector. We'll talk about that a little more later in the video. Hey, if you can tolerate my video, I'd love to have you back again here in the basement. I'm glad you joined me here today. I appreciate you investing some time with me. You're always welcome here. Please consider subscribing, give the video a thumbs up, hit the little bell icon, turn on notifications so each time I put out a video, you get alerted. We've got some major items in the economy, and they will affect the price of gold and silver. I don't watch mainstream news, but my wife records the Today Show every morning, so by default, I overhear a little bit of what they're talking about. I'm telling you, it's like now the only thing they talk about on the Today Show, the lead story is inflation, how challenged Americans are, how the economy is challenged. It's becoming a mainstream narrative that there are some economic troubles heading our way. Now, also on that note, yesterday and today, Federal Reserve President, leader, whatever, Jerome Powell is in Washington talking to the lawmakers. He said something very important yesterday. He said that the recession is a possibility. Now, I'm going to tell you, you're smart, I'm smart. If he's saying a recession is a possibility, you can pretty much bet the farm that a recession is a certainty. His job is to be optimistic. I'm going to play a couple of clips for you. This is hilarious of our leaders, including Jerome Powell, talking about things like the economy, talking about things like inflation and how there's no inflation and how wrong these people are. And when they actually start to talk about the possibility of a recession, that means buckle up, Buttercup. There is a recession almost certainly on the way. Let's take a look at a few of these clips.
I really doubt that we're going to see an inflationary cycle.
Most economic analysts believe that it will have a temporary or transitory impact.
The faster than expected increase in some of those prices is actually a good sign.
The overwhelming consensus is going to pop up a little bit and then go back down. No one's talking about this great,
This is something that will settle down.
Transitory.
Transitory.
And the data shows that most of the price increases we've seen were expected and are expected to be temporary. There's nobody suggesting there's unchecked inflation on the way. It's highly unlikely that it's going to be long-term inflation that's going to get out of hand. I don't know anybody who's worried about inflation.
So our elected officials are wrong and maybe even sometimes lie a little bit.
Over the last couple of months, we actually saw it trended downward.
President Biden's chief of staff, Ron Klain, enthusiastically retweeted an economist who had said in part most of the economic problems we're facing, inflation, supply chains, et cetera, are high-class problems.
What is the Granholm plan to increase oil production in America?
Oh my God, that is hilarious.
Well, the number one thing that the president can do is help get COVID under control. That we know is the root cause of
Wow, even more examples of our elected officials being wrong and almost blatantly lying.
President Biden this afternoon saying he thinks we're at the peak of the crisis right now and that lower prices are on the way.
The inflation has everything to do with the supply chain. Make no mistake, inflation is largely the fault of Putin. I'm going to do everything I can to minimize Putin's price hike here at home.
If you want to get rid of inflation, the only way to do it is to undo a lot of the Trump tax cuts.
Ever since you've come into office, things are really looking up. You know, gas is up, rent is up, food is up, everything.
Those clips demonstrate two things. Number one, these guys are almost always wrong. And number two, they are always peak optimists. So again, if Jerome Powell is saying there's a possibility of a recession, you can bet your boots we're headed for a recession. Also yesterday, some of the major banks were talking recession. Citibank, Goldman, things are going to slow down precipitously. That will require the Fed to shift back, pivot back to looser monetary policy, which will be good for gold and silver. One last point before we circle back to gold and silver. We will get unemployment numbers today. I'm suspecting that the unemployment picture, even on a quote-unquote official level, will start to look more and more bleak as we head into the coming months. And don't forget, these numbers are BS. They don't count people that haven't looked for a job for a certain period of time. They don't bring up the fact that the labor participation rate is very, very low on a historical basis. So again, I'm not real optimistic about employment or the economy as we move forward. But let's move back to silver and gold and the mining stocks. Man, guys, this has been a painful year. If you're experiencing pain like I am, you know what I'm talking about. Heck, I don't really honestly even sleep as great as I used to. My portfolio has been not decimated. And again, I don't use borrowed money to ever buy stock, so I'm not in a position where we would lose everything or anything like that, but it has just been a challenging year, almost couple years. You know, the price will go back up on the stocks in particular and then get hammered back down. Even really the same thing with the metals. And, you know, we tend to feel very passionately about this sector. So while people say, oh, you can't let it bother you, you can't whatever, it does bother us. But remember, we are not alone. Silver, gold, precious metal, mining stock investors, you're not the only one. The CEOs of the companies usually own a lot of the stock. There's a lot of other people that hold physical gold and silver, although gold's actually done pretty darn well over the last number of years. But the stocks, and I think silver in particular, can really take us for a roller coaster ride of emotions. So, you know, I'm not sitting here to tell you, don't worry about it, don't let it bother you, because it bothers people. But don't make emotional-based decisions. Try to make decisions about what you're going to do from an investment perspective, from a perspective of logic and understanding. Hey, I appreciate you being with me here in the basement. You're always welcome, and I'll look forward to seeing you, yes, you, next time.